There's a desperation, tell me you don't feel it. This hopelessness coming down. These times demand a reprieve from the anguish. These times, like no other before us, like no other to follow. In the anguish of uncompleted missions, disappointment and futility, I knew you then and I know you still. The anguish of nothing being resolved, it didn't get resolved at all, and I call it the anguish. Misogyny, misogyny, misogyny. We hide the anguish, not too well at all, not too well at all.
Mecca Normal performing their new song, Anguish, Misogyny, in the studios of Democracy Now! This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Anita Sarkeesian is our guest, and I want to start asking about your whole critique about video games by talking about Gamergate controversy, how it emerged. This is a video game developer, Brianna Wu, speaking to CNN over the weekend about so-called Gamergaters threatening her.
I posted a meme making fun of one of my fans sent me a meme, and it made very gentle fun of Gamergaters, and I posted it. And as a response to that, pro Gamergator people and the site 8chan ended up making thousands of memes targeting me, and it escalated to death threats.
That was video game developer Brianna Wu. Anita Sarkeesian is with us today, media critic and executive director of Feminist Frequency, a video web series that explores representations of women in pop culture, who withdrew from her speaking engagement at Utah State after the school got an email threatening to commit the worst massacre in American history. Anita, can you talk about what Brianna said and talk about these video games that you are overall criticizing?
Sure. So one of the things that she's referencing is, we have this larger culture in gaming where a subset of mostly male gamers have been viciously going after women and attacking them. It's mostly women who speak up, excuse me, who speak up against, actually speak up for the inclusivity of games, right? Speak up in terms of creating more diversity in games. And right now, this reference of Gamergate is sort of this big culmination of these toxic harassment, this toxic harassment campaign that's been happening to me for years and to many other women. And so they're sort of lashing out and going after women in these horrible, vicious ways, sort of as trying to preserve gaming as a male-dominated space, as the status quo. But they're doing it under the guise of journalism ethics. But really what's happening is they are attacking women.
Explain what happened to Zoe Quinn.
Sure.
And who
Zoe
she
is an independent game developer, and an ex of hers wrote a big diatribe saying awful things about her, which were not true. And he claimed that she had slept with a journalist to get coverage for her game, which was also not true. And her game is a free game. There's no need for her to try to get any press for it. But it was another example of going after women and trying to discredit us and silence us, and in some very personal ways.
And why did that become so extreme, and that became what is known as Gamergate?
I think it culminated at this time because they sort of latched onto this idea of journalism ethics, and that became something that sounded good. But it was a way for them to mask their sexist temper tantrum, where they've been going after women for years. And so I think because of the intensity and how many people they're going after and just the sheer toxicity of their behavior, a lot of people in the games industry and in the community and in the industry have started to really take note of the fact that we have a problem. We have a problem with sexism and misogyny, and we need to do something about it.
I want to play two short clips from a video game you've critiqued, Dragon Age Origins.
Let go of me! Stop, please!
It's a party, isn't it? Grab a whore and have a good time. Savor the hunt, boys.
Well, that's one less elf breeder in the world.
A shame, though. Nice body on that one.
She's still warm. How picky are you, anyway?
That's from Dragon Age Origins. Can you respond to this, Anita Sarkeesian?
Sure. So one of the most important pieces of what I do is talking about how we can love a piece of media and also critique it at the same time. So a series like Dragon Age is a highly beloved series that has a lot of great things about it. But there are some examples of violence against women and sort of exploiting women's bodies or exploiting their vulnerability in these really awful ways. And so that's just one of many examples of games that do that, that sort of take advantage of this vulnerability to try to make players feel more intense, right? To make these worlds more gritty.
So can you... Yes, go ahead.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, so it's not just one game. There's, in my series, I look at hundreds and hundreds of games. And so I don't want to just sort of pick out Dragon Age as, this big, horrible example when there's so many other examples. So
give us a sense of this world of video games. How many people use them? Who develops them? How many are women? How many are men?
Sure. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is bigger than Hollywood at this point in terms of revenue. So it has a huge cultural impact on our society. The last statistic that I saw, I believe, is about 27% of developers are women. So we still have a huge problem with gender equity within the development community. But about 40 to 46% of gamers are actually women. So this idea that gamers are all men is actually not true, that women are almost half of the gaming players.
I wanted to ask you about the comments that, come on, this is just online stuff. It's pretty harmless. Why you take it so seriously, Anita?
Online harassment, especially gendered online harassment, is an epidemic. Women are being driven out. They're being driven offline. This isn't just in gaming. This is happening across the board online, especially with women who participate in or work in male-dominated industries. So the harassment actually has a very real effect on us as a society in terms of making this space unwelcoming for women. But it also has a chilling effect. So women who are watching this happen, who are watching me get terrorized for 2 years, are going to question whether they actually want to be involved, whether they want to speak up, and whether they want to participate.
And talk more about what you feel needs to be done at this point.
Yeah, so in terms of the immediacy of the harassment against women in gaming, I think developers and publishers and key figures in the gaming industry need to vocally step up and say, we do not accept this harassing behavior. We support women and further outline steps that they're going to take to try to make the gaming community more inclusive and more diverse, both within their hiring practices and also within the games that they're making.
Well, Anita Sarkeesian, I want to thank you for being with us, media critic, executive director of Feminist Frequency, video web series that explores representations of women in pop culture. Final question, the response that you've gotten after canceling your speaking engagement at Utah State University.
I've received an enormous amount of support, and that's one thing I'm really thankful for, is throughout doing this project, there's been so many people who have been incredibly supportive, that really value and like what I do, and that just means the world to me.
Anita Sarkeesian, thanks so much. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, we'll talk with people who are representing their own lives, filmmakers from the United States and from Russia, who've banded together to raise awareness about disability issues through films. Stay with us.